Hi, I've got Rob Peters here from the Standard of Trust Group. He's come all the way from Chicago, and he's going to tell us about relationship capital. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you. Let's start back in the early 2000s. So in 2002, I started a 5-year study of chief information officers. I was in the technology world consulting for Headstrong back then, James Martin, large consultancy. And all my CIO friends were losing their jobs. So I wanted to find out what was going on. So I went and partnered with DePaul University. We conducted a survey. And one question stuck out that changed the epiphany. 98% of chief information officers told me that they did not build great relationships with their peers and with the board. Mm-hmm. And that got me thinking, because I'm highly visionary, see the hyper-connected world that we're in now is how... It's not a technology issue for the CIO who runs the technology organization. It's a relationship issue.
Right.
So how do you build relationships as the world gets more virtualized and more digital? Mm-hmm. How do we account for that? How do we know that someone's credible? How do we know that we can trust an entity? How do we verify it?
Yeah.
So I had this idea that there had to be some score, some accounting measure, but I didn't want it to be an algorithm. I wanted it to be some open standard that's very simple that people could understand. So in a nutshell, relationship capital is an open standard that measures, captures, accounts, and utilizes an individual or group's relationship capital. What does that mean? I make a commitment to Thomas Power, and that commitment could be I'm going to introduce him to a CEO that could use his speaking services or his company. I make the connection, he gets the meeting, he credits my account with one relationship capital point, RCP. That's how the score of relationship capital gets credited into an account. Think of a checking account.
Wow.
If I don't fulfill the commitment, he controls my reputation, my influence. Because I didn't do what I said to him, he debits my account.
Yeah.
Very simple. And then at the end of a project, maybe I made 5 commitments to Thomas. I complete the project or fulfill it. I think I did. I sent him what we call a perception poll survey, 1 to 10. 1 is low, 2, 3, 4, 5 is average, all the way up to 10. He gives me a 9 out of 10 for quality of work, social competency, credibility gives me an 8, character gives me a 5, whatever, and that fraction, 5/10 gets credit, 8/10. If it's 10 out of 10, 1 point. So you can kind of sentiment with an open standard. That's kind of the open standard for sentiment perceptions. So commitments, about keeping commitments, because I think that's trustworthiness really on steroids, accounting for it, making it simple to understand. Technology can make it more enforceable so that you don't have gamers, because there's always going to be someone who's going to say, I want to give you a point, I'll take the commitments you account for. So
really?
There's always gaming, someone's always trying to game the system. The key with this is it's transparent. If people see that you're gaming it, if people catch you, what does that do to your reputation? What does that do?
It makes it even worse.
I think that kind of keeps the people honest. Where this idea came from was partly a group Skype meetings for a period of 2 years, working on this with people from London, people from Canada, the United States, voluntarily passionate about coming up with this standard. But another area that I did some research on was eBay. Have you ever bought or sold something on eBay?
Sure.
What I learned was eBay was about to go under when they initially started. What happened was all these fraudulent, unethical sellers got on the platform selling crappy products. Buyers were in uproar, wanting to get off the platform.
Of course.
The founder goes, I can't hire enough policemen to watch guard every transaction. What can I do? Well, thus came out the eBay confidence rating. 5 stars? The moment a seller got a 0 star from the buyer, those people disappeared. Saved the platform. My vision, or our vision,
I didn't know that.
Our vision is that we want to have an open standard across all gardens. Can you imagine the accounting standards bodies decide to start solving these intangible asset problems? 70% of companies' assets are intangible. They're not measuring intellectual property, relationship capital, social capital, whatever the capitals. And how can you operationalize that business in an interconnected, transparent world if you're not measuring your trustworthiness, your credibility? To me, credibility, influence, as I said earlier to you, engendering trust, connecting, collaborating, deepening loyalty, earning relationship capital, keeping promises. This is the single source of competitive distinguishment. You're separate from others.
It's long-term customer loyalty.
Sustainable.
Right? Yeah.
because you're sticky. If you can't be trusted, who's going to buy from you? Who's
Yeah.
who's going to advocate for you? And I tell executives, I go, imagine you're before a judge at the end of your life, and you ask him, how did my relationship capital come out? And what are you going to tell the judge? What was the quality of your relationships, your trustworthiness, your behavior? CEOs, I love CEOs. They've made a lot of money for me. They've been very good clients. But right now, CEOs are less trusted by their employees
Really?
than ever before, at least in the United States.
Really?
I assume it's similar in
It's very similar because they seem to be taking too many bonuses these days, and earning too much money. So there's a lot of propaganda about it, and it's been upsetting a lot of people, I think. So they're not trusted. No, not
Right.
very much.
So now, so my vision, and it's not just my vision, I have a lot of people in my network who believe in this, and I've been tweeting about it for years, and seem to be getting traction, it seems to be building. Part of the reason I came out here to meet people like you in this credibility event was that they talk about social capital, I talk about relationship capital. I believe the reason we went with relationship capital as a term was social capital is used by the government for the quantity of connections.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about having a relationship with you.
Quality.
What's the quality of our relationship?
Yeah.
How am I meeting my commitment to you? How do you perceive me in serving your interest? I believe to sustain and grow a business going forward, you need to proactively look after your customers' interests. In fact,
agree.
all your stakeholders. You need to look after your employees' interests.
Yeah.
Train them. Train them, like Richard Branson says, so well that they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And they believe in it, so they don't want to. No one can take them away. And that type of culture, I think culture might be the single biggest limiter of a company's success, because 7 out of 10 employees are disengaged. 2 are actively sabotaging business. Gallup, Towers Wyatt, look at the research. It's 7 out of 10. That's not just a careers crisis, Nat. That's a leadership crisis. Leaders should be responsible for developing the culture. People aren't flying out of bed, innovating, making a difference. And the young people, the millennials, the Gen Ys, these are the saviors. They will not tolerate an executive who's ruthless in business without caring about his teams and be a devoted father at home. That doesn't fly with most people, but especially the millennials and Gen Z. They want you to be authentic in your personal and business life. Why?
Right.
They fused.
Right.
There's no such thing as personal over here and business over there. It's all personal, and if that's the case, then business needs to talk less in marketing jargon, and like a human.
Be more human.
And people, on the other hand, need to start building that brand.
The
will attract,
personal brand.
Because it's all personal.
Of course.
And that
people by people, right?
Exactly.
It's all about people. It's not about anything else.
Totally. I mean, that's the asset. And the moment you talk in that marketing and sales term, and people feel that you're not looking after, you don't have good intent towards them, that it's really a game that, I met a guy in Toronto that had 70,000 people on his front line before LinkedIn cut it down. And I asked him, and you think that's a good thing? How well do you know those 50,000 plus people? And he says, I don't know them that well.
Well, I actually think I'm gonna cull my LinkedIn contacts.
It's all good to trim the tree.
I'm gonna cut them down. I'm gonna do the same with my Facebook. Twitter is a little different because I actually like the vanity metric of that. So do you think it's actually anything to do with leadership, style of leadership? Because there's many styles of leadership, right? Do you think that the organisation should be more flat in its leadership style, so more like a Japanese consensus style management structure?
I have a methodology that looks at various attributes. Organizational structure is one. How do you share knowledge? Do you distribute the knowledge to your team in like popcorn pellets to a pigeon, little dribbles, or do you let it flow when they need it to be closer to the customer? How do you recognize them? Do you recognize them with carrots and sticks and punish them when they're wrong and make it fear-based? Or do you trust them to do the right thing and acknowledge them when they make a difference to the client? Cultures are
that's Japanese style.
Yes, well, that's they're
flat.
Very flat.
Yeah.
High relationship capital, trust. Self-governing, high purpose, that samurai, Bushido, code of ethic, values. Let me talk about that because that's a good point. The one thing we learned is we started talking about measuring this stuff. I love measurement, guys. Measurement's just the accounting. The one thing we learned was the values behind the behavior to get that reward, that relationship capital acknowledgement.
Yeah.
it's the being honest, being accountable,
Yeah.
being responsible, being respectful, being supportive,
Yeah.
being proactive, trust
Completely.
and understanding emotional boundaries. The women we worked with understand. Ever have I talk to women and men too. Someone get in your personal space.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Very.
The same thing happens digitally. A woman approaches a man, pursues you.
Yeah.
When someone says, "I do not want to connect with you, leave me alone." The open standard of relationship capital is you back away. Otherwise, your relationship capital goes down. Your perception of you is not
It's like
trust.
hard selling, right?
Hard selling. No one buys
Versus
that.
soft selling.
Yeah, so it's not. It's pretty simple to understand, right, guys? It's not so easy to execute because here's what I've learned in my journey: you have to be very clear about your purpose. What's your higher purpose? Is your higher purpose to make money first of all, or is your higher purpose to make a difference? Mine is to serve my community, make a difference by earning relationship capital with my tribe, with my team, with my partners.
Yeah.
To proactively look after their interests, even if it costs me money in the short run. Because I believe that'll sustain my business in the long run.
Yeah.
It'll distinguish me because people know that I'm looking after their interests.
Yeah.
It's not just about me.
No.
Capitalism has always been that way, but somehow we hijacked it into just a financial game.
Yeah.
And instead of doing the right things and earning that trust with the client, and loyalty, many people think loyalty's gone.
Well, I think that nowadays, certainly, I don't know about the US, I think it is in the US as well, but it's all about being that trusted advisor, isn't it? And that actually fits into what your ethos is completely, doesn't it?
Let me add to that.
It's about providing knowledge
Exactly.
for say you're a supplier for a client and you supply them, for an example, you're a social media coach, consultant, whatever, trainer, and you turn around and they say to you, well, what do? I need a good Google AdWords pay-per-click guy. You actually recommend someone who you trust, yeah? Then that actually strengthens the relationship you already have with that client. So it's about building a lifelong relationship, building a relationship 20, 30, 40 years down the line where you're still helping that person to get what he needs or she needs out of business, yeah?
Perfect. I would add one level of service support to that relationship. When you introduce someone, you're taking your reputation,
It's a
your
risk.
hard-earned reputation, right?
Yeah, it's a big risk, yeah.
So you're lending them your reputation,
Yeah.
connecting. So when I connect with people and I build a relationship, and the intention is to introduce them to my network, is that one is, do your best to make me look good. Do your word. I'm sharing my reputation. I believe in this person. I'm introducing you. Guys
Yeah.
should get along swimmingly.
Yeah,
I'll follow up with you just to let me know how it's going. If I don't hear from you, I'd hope that you'd proactively know that either
Yeah.
it's working out or it's not. I want to know,
yeah.
so I can, manage that and support it as best I can.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be a little process when to make
Yeah.
sure, because you want to just don't delegate it and then it goes away, and then one day you
Exactly.
get that call and the person says,
Yeah.
that person wasn't what you said he
Yeah,
was.
yeah. It's like introducing someone, and then, so for instance, I've just introduced a few people to quite a famous online blogger that I know, and they're in the same industry. It looked like it would have been actually a perfect mix, okay, perfect introduction, but the people that I actually introduced who would have benefited from the introduction did nothing. And then that actually, it didn't make me look really bad because I've actually got a very strong relationship
Right.
with
You did the right thing. You made the
with the
introduction.
blogger.
Right.
However, it's actually a waste of time. So it's do you have to wait for people to ask you for an introduction, or do you just say, well, would you like an introduction, and then you offer it? But then how do you know how desperate they are for that introduction? This is the problem that I face.
Well, here's what I do.
Yeah.
I believe I like to give before I get.
Mhm.
I believe you
Same.
earn it.
Same.
Asking first, it's not a great position to be in.
No.
If it's
Well, you're
a little
desperate.
desperate,
You're
right?
desperate, yeah.
So if you can just make an introduction, whatever commitment. Again, we're measuring commitments.
Yeah.
You make a commitment, however small. You follow through, do it.
Yeah.
So I think if you do that, you'll build a reputation. You'll attract.
Yeah.
You're giving of your time. Giving is a great attitude. There's a great book by Dr. Adam Grant called Give and Take. And he researched the very social profiles and who's the top performer.
Right.
So there's three categories. There's the giver, the taker,
Yeah.
and the matcher. Now, who do you think of those three categories, the giver, the taker, and the matcher? Who's the most successful?
The matcher.
The giver.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
Who's the least successful, do you think?
The taker.
The giver.
The giver.
The giver is both the top 10%
Oh, really?
performer and the bottom. Why? Because if you're not smart in your giving,
Yeah.
you get tied to a taker who will take,
Ah.
and the giver unconditionally gives and gives, not expecting anything back.
Yeah.
And it affects their job performance. They're giving, and it can still affect
Of
their ability
course.
to deliver, and they
Yeah.
lose their job. And that's so. Top givers are smart givers.
Yeah.
They can detect the taker. They can see the behavior, and
Yeah.
they try to stay away. And by the way, the top givers are they're like penny power. They give, and they become beacons, magnets, which attracts more givers.
Yeah.
It's just that's what I
continual
suggest,
process.
Nat. As you continue to build your network, it's hard. It's an investment.
Yeah.
Build that relationship capital. Give.
it's
Prime the
what
pump.
I
It's like
do.
priming the pump. You prime the pump, and you give up right before the
Exactly.
water comes out of the ground. It drops down.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of work you do that isn't seen, that's intangible.
Exactly.
But if you believe in the values that I talk about,
Yeah.
or whatever values like integrity, whatever words you use,
Yeah.
we have the open standards. But whatever values that you can behave in congruence with what you tell people you are,
Yeah.
and you're in congruence and you do what you say, you are different than a lot of people. So audience
Yeah.
here, clear about your purpose, clear about your values, clear about being congruent in your behavior. Do what you say. It's not complex. I'm not saying it's easy. There's going to be context where you're going to have those paradoxes.
Of course.
Make a tough decision. Do I take that project? That customer is going to be hard. The relationships are going to be tough. Or do you say, no, this money I capture for having this relationship with this client is not going to make me happy. It's not going to build a better
No.
relationship, but you take a short-term financial hit. But
Mm-hmm.
I think in the long run, you're happier. You build a better relationship, but you're happier working with people around you. I think you're going to see more and more of those smart decisions in this
Definitely.
hyper-connected, transparent world.
Yeah. So really, it's about it's about under promising and over delivering.
I don't think
Completely.
I am one of those people. I can resist everything but temptation.
Yeah.
So you take on a lot of projects and a
I
lot of
know.
tasks.
That's the problem.
You got to pull back, be very organized because you want to
Yeah.
keep your commitments. If you're not organized, you may not want to keep commitments because you're
Yeah.
unethical, but because you're just disorganized.
Yeah, but the problem is really when people actually don't understand what they have to do, and they don't allow enough time, do they?
Exactly.
And so many people overpromise and underdeliver.
Think
and
it's gonna take this amount of
that's the
time?
most
Double it.
Painful.
Yes.
Oh, I will actually triple it or quadruple
Put a buffer.
it, just knowing that things come up that you might need
Shift
to do.
your priorities, right?
Yeah, very much.
Totally agree. So
Yeah.
I think it's values. It's being clear that think of it like a trust barometer.
Yeah.
When you're earning relationship capital, I introduced Nat Schooler to an executive in Chicago who could want to see these videos, would want to, investigate his business and pull him in. Chink, credit that account, emotional bank account that Stephen M. Recovery talks about.
Yeah.
I say thank you when Nat retweets my dogma, my passion. Thank you, Nat. And then acknowledging his group that he connects me with, and making sure I make him look good because he introduced me, tweeted that got me a great connection to my business. It's little things. It's
Exactly.
sending personal thank you cards to
Yeah.
people, not just easy emails. That's
Yeah.
the easiest thing. Do the hard thing. Spend a little money, get a stamp, personalized stamp, personalize a thank you card after you meet someone. Those little things.
Yeah.
Credit your account.
It's
Perception.
massive because it's the
massive.
little things. No one gets snail mail anymore. No one gets that anymore.
That's what makes it unique, and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
they don't remember what you might have said at the meeting, but they remember how that you made them feel.
Yeah.
And they
Exactly.
They know you earned relationship capital when people are saying positive things
Yeah.
about you, and you're not in the room.
Yeah.
You can't put a price tag on that.
Very
that
much
will
so.
sustain your business in good economic times or bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got a book out, haven't you? Have you just launched that just recently?
It took me 10 years to write it.
Wow.
I launched it in January digital. I think it came out in paperback on Amazon in March. It's called Standard of Trust Leadership, Transforming Business Cultures of Purpose, Performance, and Relationship Capital. I believe if you have those three dimensions, cultures can elevate. it's not about shifting behavior. It's about elevating it. It's about not just measuring the how much, but doing the hows. Being a standard of trust leader means caring about your employees, your investors, your customers more than your self-interest. Leaders don't succeed by themselves. They might be at the top of the hierarchy. Yeah. But I believe that standard trust leadership is about proactively looking after your customers' interests and doing it in a way that enables more leaders to be created who want to stay with you, so the top performers don't leave, and generate lots of profits and a lot of goodwill and relationship capital.
Great. Well, thanks for your book. Really looking forward to reading it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much
Nat,
for the interview.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to building more relationship capital.
See you guys.
Thanks.